السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.
نحمده ونصلي على رسول النبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قال الله تعالى في شأن حبيبي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأحوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك على الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة بعد الممات إنك على كل شيء قدير. صلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. The last few weeks we've been talking about Muslim unity and directly and indirectly focusing on the verse in Surah Al-Imran which starts off with أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and hold fast to the rope of Allah and do not be divided, which in reality is and hold fast to the rope of Allah so that you will not be divided. And then the verse of course continues on واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إن كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة حفرة من النار فأنقذهم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds the favor that He did to the believers, that He united them. So again, the basic point here is that unity is from Allah when we hold fast to the rope of Allah. And last week we were talking about the verse in Surah Ma'idah, verse number 55, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّكُمُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ رَاكِعُونَ. And your friends are only Allah, His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Those who believe, who establish salat and give zakat and make ruku. But as we explained last week, when you're understanding the background to the verse, why the verse was revealed, also helps in understanding the verse and sometimes changes our understanding of the verse. So here it's those who believe, establish salat, and pay zakat with humility. As we mentioned the incident that goes to the background of this verse, which is where Ali radiallahu anhu, he gives sadaqah, he gives charity, while in the condition of ruku. Because the man came to the masjid of Rasulullah asking for something, no one gave him anything, and he's leaving saying that, I came to the court of Rasulullah and no one gave me anything. And Ali is making salat and he hears the man, and in that condition he takes an expensive ring off of his finger and throws it towards the man and motions to him to take it. And again, reiterating the interesting point here is that none of this broke the salat of Ali. Normally, when you make extra movements in your salat, it violates your salat. Your salat is null and void. But here, nothing happened to his salat. Rasulullah didn't tell him to make your salat again. because he did everything to safeguard and to protect the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And because of that, didn't matter what he did, so long as that was his intention, didn't violate his salat. This is why when the companions were in salat, and if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called them, they would leave their salat. And they would come back and continue the salat just as if they never left it. Because again, they're fulfilling the command of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He extends this even to the parents. So even if the parents, if you're making salat and your parents call you, if you're making optional salat, whether it's sunnah or nafil, then you break your salat, you go tend to them, then you come back and you continue your salat. If it's it's fard, if you're making fard, if they don't know you're making fard, you finish your fard. If they know it and they still call you, then you go. And then you come back and you finish. And here it doesn't matter whether the parents are Muslim or non-Muslim. This is again the honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to the parents. So now coming back to where we ended. We ended with verse 22 of Surah Mujadilat, which is Surah number 58, verse number 22, which is the last verse, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says more or less that never will the believers, or never will anyone who believes in Allah and the last day, love those who are the enemies of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, irrespective of if that person is aba'ahum, meaning the forefathers, the parents or the forefathers, abna'ahum, the progeny, the offspring, ikhwanahum, the brothers, or ashiratahum, any relation, doesn't matter. So true believers will not be loving or befriending those who are the enemies of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we see this when we look at the attitude of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We see this. Not just one place, but many places. Simple example, Battle of Tabuk. For those who know, Tabuk was never really a battle in the sense that there was any fighting. Heraclius, the Roman emperor, was amassing an army, or in the process of amassing an army to come and attack Medina Munawwara. And it was said that he would amass 100,000 men. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam leaves Medina Munawwara with 30,000 men to go and deal with him before he can come. They left Medina Munawwara and they arrive in Tabuk. Tabuk is 18 days march for an army from Medina. They stayed there for a month and then they came back because Heraclius never showed up. He realized, that he could not win. While they were going though, they released the camels to go and graze. They would stop at a place, release the camels, let them go graze, and then come back. At one of these junctures, all of the camels came back except for the camel of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Ibn Kathir mentions this in his seerah. So all of them came back except for Qaswa. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he goes in front of them, he gathers them, and he makes an announcement that my camel has not returned, so go and find my camel and bring it back. He finishes the statement, leaves, and then immediately comes back. And now, what initially was Jamal, you see the Jalal. And he very sternly says to them, he says that I know what Allah has taught me. So go in such and such a valley and go to such and such a tree, and you will find Qaswa, her reins have been stuck in one of the limbs of that tree. So go and bring her. When they were traveling, the Rasulullah divided the army up into groups. You have a huge army that's traveling, you can't just all march at the same time. So he divided them up into groups. And the groups were people who were friends and knew each other, generally relatives. You have people from the same clan in each group. That way you have less issues. You know, people of similar habits, they travel together. Otherwise, someone doesn't like the way, you wash your feet. Causes issues. So he divided the army up this way, so there would be no issues. Umar bin Hazm, he's the one who went, and he brought the camel back. The whole time he's wondering, why was Rasulullah upset, and why did he give this command in such a way? Why did he tell us to go and get this camel from this specific place in such a manner? When he comes back with the camel, then he finds out that another person, Zayd bin Lusayd, had made a comment when Rasulullah made his initial announcement. And the comment was that, he receives revelation from on high, and he doesn't know where his camel is. Challenging and questioning the knowledge of Rasulullah. Zayd bin Lusayd was traveling in the same group as Umar bin Hazm. They were friends. When Umar bin Hazm finds out what his friend had said and why, and then realizes that this is what upset Rasulullah, he goes to his friend, he punches him in the neck, and he says to him, that this calamity was amongst us and I didn't even know it. So be gone. Didn't associate with him anymore. For people today, if they don't know the back end or the front end of this, all they know is, some Rasulullah makes an announcement, and this man, he makes this comment. If that's all they know, unfortunately, people today, the mindset of the people today is, it's not a big deal. Because these are the same people who question the knowledge of Rasulullah themselves. It is a big deal. And when you look at the statement of Rasulullah, the first statement was, go and find my camel. For people who don't have an understanding of the Nabuwah and the Risala of Rasulullah, then they could think that, okay, well, maybe he doesn't know where his camel is, so he's telling us to go find his camel. For someone who thinks like that, then they should also think that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking Musa al-Islam, وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا مُوسَى, that what is in your right hand, O Musa, then they should also think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't know what was in the right hand of Musa al-Islam, which is not the case. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us, He's teaching Musa al-Islam, and at the same time teaching us what Musa al-Islam possesses in his right hand, which is his staff. And of course Musa al-Islam tells him his staff and what he does with the staff, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him what? Throw your staff. And then he sees a different reality of the staff. Here, when the knowledge of Rasulullah is questioned, Rasulullah now makes the statement, what? He says that I know what Allah has already taught me. He knew where the camel was the first time he made the announcement. But he's teaching us processes. So he said, go and find the camel. But when his knowledge is questioned, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders him, let them know. Make sure that there's no doubt as to what he knows, what you know. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already taught me. I know what Allah has already taught me. You can go such and such a valley and you will find my camel. And exactly where he said it would be, exactly the tree on which he said it would be. But the point here is, again, Umar ibn Hazm, who is a true believer, who believes in Allah and the last day. So when his friend, when his kin challenges the knowledge of Rasulullah, so what does he do? He dissociates from him. If you look at the companions of, when we look at the companions of Rasulullah, what do we see? Battle of Badr, brother against brother. There, of course, you see that clear-cut distinction between believer against disbeliever. In Tabuk, you have some hypocrites traveling with them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us how to distinguish them. These are the people that question the knowledge of Rasulullah. These are the people that question the authority of Rasulullah. These are the enemies from within. This is why when Sayyidina Ali Karamallah Wajh becomes the Khalifa, he doesn't have time to deal with anything else other than the issues from within. You know, if you look at the Khilafah of Abu Bakr and Umar, first 6 months of the Khilafah of Abu Bakr, dealing with what? Internal issues. All of those who had openly apostated. But at least there again you have this clear-cut distinction. Those who have openly apostated. So he deals with them for the first 6 months. The remaining, remaining 1 3/4 of a year, he deals with external issues. The Persians, the Romans, everyone else. Umar, for the 10 years that he's Khalifa, he deals with what? The external issues. Uthman, he's Khalifa for 12 years. The first 6 years, external issues. The last 6 years, now we get the beginnings of the internal issues. What changed? And if you look at the Khilafah of Ali, the almost 6 years of his Khilafah, he didn't deal with anyone from the outside. That was openly from the outside. Everything was internal. All the battles he fought, he didn't fight a single battle against anyone who didn't claim to be Muslim. So what changed? When we look at the early days, the first 18 years. You have those people who have sacrificed everything for Islam. They sacrificed everything for the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, including their families, including their wealth. They had given up everything. So they knew its value. They understood it. Then you have this new generation coming up who are reaping the fruits of the labors of all of those who came before, but haven't had to give any sacrifice for it. So they don't really understand its value anymore. You know, like they say, easy come, easy go. And this is what started to change. Along with this change, you see a change where the attitudes towards Ahlul Bayt are also changing now. The attitudes toward the household of Rasulullah are also changing. When we look at the attitude of Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman radiallahu anhum towards Ahlul Bayt, there is nothing but love and affection. We've gone over this many times, and we'll keep going over these things. I'm just going to mention it right now. There's nothing but love and affection. Both ways. Which is why there's an issue with those who claim to love Ali, but then they curse the ones that he loved. That's not love. If I love someone, then I love the ones that he loves. We cannot love Rasulullah without loving Ahlul Bayt. We cannot love Rasulullah without loving the Sahaba. There is no loving Allah without loving a Rasulullah. I mean, it's not a very complicated equation. So what has changed is, again, people who have acquired this religion without giving any sacrifice. And people who are now not understanding the reality and the status of Ahlul Bayt, the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because when we mention the verse وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ, Hablillah is the rope of Allah, it is the Quran, but there is no understanding the Quran without knowing Ahlul Bayt. This is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us. This is why, when we look at the sacrifice of Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu, for those who don't know, Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu is the son of Zubair bin Awam, who is Ashar al-Bashira. His mother is Bibi Safiya, the aunt of Rasulullah, the sister of Hamza. His father, or rather his mother, that's Zubair bin Awam. When we look at Abdullah ibn Zubair, his mother is Asma bint Abu Bakr. Asma bint Abi Bakr radiallahu anha is his mother. So his grandfather, maternal grandfather, is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He is the first male Muslim child to be born in Medina Munawwara. The Jews before this had said, we've done because there were only girls being born. They said we've done magic and a curse on them, so there will be no male issue. He's the first to be born shortly after she arrived in Quba. His mother arrived in Quba, and when he was born, everyone said Allahu Akbar. When he's martyred, everybody is also saying Allahu Akbar. Because the step that he took was that after Yazid had Imam Hussein al-Islam killed, and then he attacked Medina Munawwara and used the masjid of Rasulullah as a stable to tie the horses. There was no adhan called for 3 days. There was no salat in the masjid of Rasulullah in that sense for 3 days. Abdullah ibn Zubair is in Makkah. He announces that he is the rightful ruler, so all the people of Hijaz acknowledge him. For 9 years he rules, which is interesting because no one mentions him as a ruler. Banu Umayyah was simply left to a small portion of Sham. All of Misr, all of Iraq, all of Yemen, all of Arabia is under the control of Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu. At the end of those 9 years, Banu Umayyah Abdul Malik bin Marwan finds Hajjaj bin Yusuf and sends him against Abdullah ibn Zubair. And as is the I guess the history of the Sunnis, everybody comes saying, oh, we're with you, and then when time comes, everybody is gone. Same thing with him. And gets into a long history, but we won't get into that right now. And eventually he's martyred, and as they're martyring, as they're chopping his head off, they're saying what? Allahu Akbar. He could not have taken that step if Imam Hussein al-Islam had not taken the step that he had taken. He needed an example from Ahlul Bayt to be able to do what he did, and Imam Hussein al-Islam is that example. That he did not yield to the tyrant. Because there are many people who said, oh, we'll acknowledge it for the time being and then we'll change it later. Which, if you know history, it doesn't work that way. Recent history or past history. You look throughout history. If you do not have people that are willing to stand for the truth, irregardless of the price, the truth does not last. This is why when we look throughout the history of Ahlul Bayt, you always see those who have always stood up to the tyrants. Imam Zayd, who is the teacher of Imam Abu Hanifa. He's his murshid, the one who he gave allegiance to. He is that teacher of Imam Abu Hanifa for whom Imam Ja'far Sadiq said that there was no one from amongst Ahlul Bayt who was more on the Sunnah of Rasulullah or more knowledgeable than Imam Zayd. He's the son of Imam Zayn al-Abidin. We look at Imam Muhammad Nafs Zakiyah. Same thing. You have tyrant rulers, they stand up against them. And this gets back to that point that you will never find those who believe in Allah in the last day making friends with those or loving those who are the enemies of Allah and His Messenger. When we look at the rulers today, throughout the Muslim world, this is what we see. We see those who claim to be Muslim, claim to be believing in Allah in the last day, loving, befriending those who are the open enemies of Allah and His Messenger. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I mean, it's not like they even try to hide it. They're the open enemies. And we see the same attitude amongst the people. And with the governments, it's an open issue. You can see that very clearly. Amongst the people is that issue of, he doesn't, or rather he challenges the knowledge of Rasulullah sallallahu and he challenges the authority of Rasulullah sallallahu. He doesn't accept that he's Mukhtar al-Kull or that he has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him authority over everything. But, he still prays and he does this and he does that. So he's still my friend. This is why we are in the condition we are in. And we keep saying this. And we keep reminding the people of this. Until we change that condition, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not change our condition. Meaning until we change what is within us, our attitudes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not change the condition that we are in. With basically every country, everyone that is the enemy of Allah and His Messenger coming and eating, literally eating like a buffet. From the Muslim lands. And even here, we see so many people who are supposed to be leaders in the Muslim communities who have compromised to the extent that they compromise, to the extent that, even the people of Lut, it's okay to take their help and to help them, because we have a similar cause. Because we forget that ultimate help, real help, is from Allah. I'll end here today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand and to become His true lover and the true lover of His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those whom they love. Those who have not made sunnah, go and make sunnah.